Welcome to Engine Adventures. Today, 2020 Ford Explorer limited trim. This is the shorter wheelbase of the two. It's not the EL. We're gonna go through the off-roading features of this one. It is four-wheel drive, has the FX4 package with the electronically limited slip locking rear differential. ELSD is what they call it. For high-speed off-roading, if you're on really well maintained, like this section right here, it's very smooth with that independent suspension. But as you get into the bigger stuff, it will find its limits pretty quickly. I mean, we're not doing too bad. This is 15 miles an hour, but it does have a limited wheel travel. But overall, I like it. I mean, 15 miles an hour through this, not bad. It's pretty rough. And it doesn't really bang and bottom out hard. It handles it fairly well. I just looked at a 2021 GMC Yukon, and the similarities between the rear suspension on these two vehicles is incredible. It would seem like they were the same design. Like I said, the FX4 package gives you a few little skid plates. That's plastic. Over the fuel tank, you get additional skid plates up there as well, protecting the front end, the engine, the transmission, all that stuff. So there's the rear differential there. Let's get into the testing.
Here in two-wheel drive, it's hard to tell what is the braking force and what is the ELSD. So you can see when the right side wheel finally grabs, it seems to me more like the ELSD than braking the spinning wheel to transfer power. And obviously with the rear diff locked, it uses clutch plates, so there can be some slip there, but it's just going to climb this no problem. The performance throughout the different drive modes was actually pretty similar. You get a little bit less throttle sensitivity here, so you can maybe have a little bit more control, but it definitely did take more throttle input to make this climb in eco mode. When I selected sport mode, it automatically shifted into four-wheel drive auto. The mud and ruts mode requires four-wheel drive auto, so we're in four-wheel drive auto, and it also turns off the traction control. Just like mud and ruts mode, the sand mode requires four-wheel drive auto and turns off traction control. Again, 4 auto is selected, but this time traction control remains on. When you shift into four-wheel drive low, traction control and advanced track, which is stability control, are both disabled, and there are no drive modes except for tow haul mode and normal mode in 4 low. We are in normal mode for this test. Four-wheel drive low also automatically starts out in second gear. If you need first, you have to manually shift it into first. Here in four-wheel drive low with the rear diff locked, this rear diff lock is actually a limited slip clutch system, and the clutches are just locked up as tight as it can go, so it's not like a mechanical locker connection. There is a little bit of clutch slip there, but it locks up so tight you never even notice it. It might be time to retire this test, as all it does is tear up the hill more, but this made it just as far as any other vehicle has made it in two-wheel drive. switching over to four-wheel drive auto, just normal mode, just if you were driving down the street and flip the four-wheel drive selector to auto, this is how it would perform. It actually does quite well. I think there's a lot of control going on with the ELSD, and then we'll actually see later that with the rear diff button pushed, the back end of the Expedition slides sideways a bit more. So I think there's maybe a compromise here between braking the spinning wheels and applying that ELSD. And because traction control is on, I do have to go full throttle in a few of these spots. It figures it out, but with traction control off, it lets you rev the engine a lot higher. Now flipping on the rear differential lock, we can see that it climbs the hill much easier, much less effort was needed than in the previous attempt. As mentioned earlier, when you are in four-wheel drive low, traction control and stability control or advanced track are automatically disabled. So you have free range on the throttle, you can basically floor it and the engine will rev to the red line. Makes it much easier to climb, a lot more controllable. Basically 4 low with a 10-speed auto really gives you a lot of low-end torque. Now going to the mode that most people would think is the best for tough terrain situations. We've got four-wheel drive low and the rear diff locked. But keep your eye on the back end of the Expedition here. You'll see it kind of slide side to side much more than it did when the rear diff was not locked. That's because both rear wheels are spinning, of course, at the same time, and then the one front wheel that's in the air is. So you're only getting traction on the one rear wheel until the brakes are applied to the spinning wheels, transferring power to that other front wheel on the ground. Now let's try one of the drive modes. Here we're in mud and ruts mode, which turns off the traction control and the rear differential is not locked. This is also being shot from a different angle just to give a different perspective. So we failed to make it in mud and ruts mode. We're going to go ahead and switch into sand mode next and see if we can continue from this point. Still unable to move, so let's move on to the next step, which is grass, gravel, and snow mode. Now traction control is on. Again, unable to move past this point, we're going back to normal mode. Just like all the other modes, we're unable to make it up this climb, so I back off just a hair and lock the rear differential to see if we can make it now. The best drive mode in the Expedition for this type of terrain would be four-wheel drive low with the rear diff unlocked. If you're in rocks, go ahead and lock the rear diff. If you're on sand or in the mud and ruts, go ahead and use those drive modes in four-wheel drive auto with the rear diff locked. As it turns out, all of this testing was a little much for the system.
Okay, we lost four-wheel drive. It's just overheating. I think it's a clutch-based system. It was slipping too much. I'm waiting for it to cool off. I've got it in 4 low, which should lock those clutches down as tight as it can, so it shouldn't be giving me that four-wheel drive error. So let's give it a shot.
Oddly enough, the limited trim Expedition comes with the deployable running boards, but the FX4 package replaces those with these fixed running boards that hang down a little bit lower. Even so, we are still able to clear this. Underneath, we see the FX4 package provides a decent amount of skid plates here, with the one issue being that plastic skid plate right there on the right covering the fuel tank. It's kind of the lowest point and least protected.
All right, we're in 4-wheel drive low. I'm gonna go ahead and hit manual mode. When you're in 4-wheel drive low, it automatically goes to second gear. I don't know if you're seeing that, but so I'll hit manual, there we go. And then I'll shift down into first. So I'm gonna go down this hill, and I do want the rear locked just for more control. It's pretty gnarly. This thing's all sorts of torn up right now. It's hard to see with the mirror and everything in the way. But we'll do our best here. Let me get the front view. I don't know why it's doing the rear. There we go. And we are, this one's only showing 18 degrees, 19. It's about 19 degrees. So I'm gonna get past this roughest spot. I'm still riding the brakes, and you can use the hill descent control. My foot's off the brake now, but it's just a little bit too fast for me right now. It works great. I just didn't like how fast it was going for this tiny section here. And now we can let off. So this is engine braking. We're about 3 miles an hour. Yeah, I don't think we went over 3 miles an hour there. So not bad, 4-wheel drive low. And definitely did pick up a little bit there. But one last thing before we go. Headlights are not on. Fog lights are on. It passes the fog light test. 2 vehicles in a row, the GMC Sierra 1500 AT4 and this Ford Expedition. Thanks for watching Engine Adventures off-road review of the 2020 Ford Expedition Limited FX4. This is the regular or short wheelbase, not the long wheelbase. Very comfortable vehicle. Fit adults in all 3 rows pretty easily. This one is the 8-passenger. No center armrest in the rear, which was a little different, but anyway, very, very well equipped. Off-road, it does really well, especially if you put it in 4-wheel drive low. You can lock the rear differential and it'll climb really quite well. I did overheat it in 4-wheel drive auto because it's a clutch-based system. 4-wheel drive low should lock those clutches so they're not slipping and overheating like I managed to do in 4-wheel drive auto. Anyway, if you liked what you saw, hit subscribe, give me a thumbs up, ring the bell, comment down below. If you didn't like what you saw, hit subscribe. Nah, just kidding. But if you didn't like it and you give me a thumbs down, make sure you comment down below and let me know why. If there's stuff you want to see, different tests, things you want me to, vehicles you want me to test, let me know. I'll do what I can. Thanks for watching and have a great day.